Hello everyone, this is Norman Hall from Star Business Solutions. I'd like to welcome you to the November Star webinar. Today I'd like to also introduce ELMO, one of the companies that we deal with, and I'd like to thank them for their time and participation in today's webinar. Today we'll be having a bit of a fireside chat, which is a little bit different than our normal webinars, and we'll have the opportunity to talk with Michael Severs and Josh Diffie from Star, who will go through a couple of issues to do with the learning management system. What I'd like to do is ask you to type in your questions as we go, and we will address the questions at the end. So if you type them in as we go, that means you won't forget them, and we'll be able to come back to all of the issues that you may have or further queries for more explanation at the end. After the fireside chat, we'll be having Ganesh Natarajan, who will be doing a demonstration for us on the ELMO LMS system, and then following that demonstration we will be going straight into a Q&A. If we don't have any questions, it might take about 30 minutes, 35 minutes to get through it all. Hopefully we've got lots of questions at the end, and we'll take up the full hour. So I'm just turning everyone's cameras on, and we have our panelists today. So without further ado, I'd like to get the fireside chat started. Michael, the way you work, or everyone is working these days, has changed rapidly due to COVID. There has been a move to work from home, etc., over many years. I can remember 20 years ago at the National Bank, people wanting to work from home, but it's never really been adopted too much. But COVID has certainly accelerated all of that. So with the ever widening adoption of technology, how has this impacted the way employees learn?
Great question, Norman, and I think you're absolutely right. I think COVID has accelerated not just the working from home revolution as it was, but also the learning from home revolution as well. What the traditional method of delivering training has been face-to-face primarily, especially in the workplace. But what I think the whole lockdown and COVID situation right around Australia, indeed the world, has actually showed is that employees are very hungry for more information, more learning opportunities, and rather than getting them into a room together as the traditional way, they've been able to access it online. And the studies have showed that the uptake for online training or e-learning has gone up significantly since the pandemic started early in the year.
Okay. Moving on from that, I presume at ELMO you use your own LMS for your internal staff. You'll excuse my ignorance, I'm not sure exactly how many staff you do have at ELMO, but from the size of what I've seen, it's quite substantial. So maybe you can tell me what advantages you find from an LMS, and why people should actually embrace it for their own business.
Yeah, absolutely. My role at ELMO as Sales Enablement Manager is that I'm responsible for the learning and development of our sales team. There's about 100 people directly involved in revenue generation within ELMO. So the training that I'm responsible for delivering has a direct impact on our bottom line. And in fact, we fully expect that our strategy around having access for salespeople to have access to learning and development at when they need it and when they can access it themselves is part of our revenue generation and revenue enablement strategy. So we think that there are two aspects of e-learning that our teams can access. Number one is that what we call just-in-time learning. Imagine a situation where one of our salespeople may be going out or meeting very soon with a prospect, and they can access very, very quickly information about the industry, about the prospect's business, and about how to perhaps approach that particular prospect straight away because it's available online, and they can literally conduct that training themselves an hour before the meeting. The other aspect of it is that skills development, on-demand skills development. So if in fact we promote a particular area of development for our sales team and for our sales process, they can access it when they want and how they want, without us needing to take them off the sales floor, if you like, and pull them into a room, which is probably less possible these days, especially when we have a national and indeed international team. So that's the advantages that we use our LMS for.
Okay, thanks for that, Michael. And my apologies to everyone watching. My video camera has taken on a life of its own and is automatically changing all the time. So I don't know why the settings have changed. From staff's perspective, we do a lot of training of our clients when they take over new ERP systems such as MYOB Greentree or MYOB Advanced, etc. So we do the training initially for all of their staff for the changeover, but we also do training for added functionality that they take on board every now and then. Josh, would you like to make comment on how it might be advantageous for some of our existing clients or new clients from a training perspective, or a learning perspective, if they actually had the LMS system on their side of the table?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Norman. I think where I start seeing the advantages, especially to our existing client base, in potentially going down the path of an LMS, is really around both growth. So when you're bringing on new staff, obviously they've got to learn new systems. Now, whether that be Greentree Advanced or anything, I mean, it could be the guys on the tools, it could be someone out on the road trying to sell something that may actually have no touch points with the ERP or the finance side of things. But I feel as though the ability to upskill these staff on processes and various certifications, especially in those growth periods, can really assist there. You don't hinder yourself on all right, if I need to grow, I then need to train up all these new staff. I don't have time to train these staff off because of all this growth. So I think the LMS side of things, and I'm sure Michael and Ganesh probably talk to more the specifics, but just the ability to roll out new staff without the upfront effort and cost of training them in the traditional methods, I think sells itself.
Okay, thanks. And I've turned my camera off to stop what was happening with the focus change. So once again, my apologies on that. We often hear about behavioural skills, or the soft skills, if you like, as well as technical skills. Can e-learning do well in both, or is it better suited to one or another? Michael?
Yeah, that's great question, Norman. I think everybody is looking to influence behaviours when it comes to employees, and we certainly do that with our sales teams. Absolutely, an LMS can influence behaviours. There's no doubt about that. The way that you can do that is you know, once you have the content available to impart knowledge, to increase the skills of employees, then the behaviours will follow. So we all of our training is focused on 3 key areas: knowledge, skills, and attitudes. You know, creating a systemized approach for imparting knowledge, growing the skill set will then have a direct impact on behaviors and attitudes of employees. So absolutely, it's suited for all of those 3.
Okay, thanks for that. Just moving on from them, learning management systems, or LMS, is, from my perspective, just a tool in a broader toolkit for businesses, and not just businesses, but not-for-profits as well. So we won't just limit it to the for-profit type business. How do you think it can work to complement the other processes or systems within the realms of human resource management?
Yeah, I think what technology has done over the last 20 years or so, it's showed that learning and development, even delivered through e-learning, is not a standalone solution. It's certainly not a silver bullet to everything that you know, HR can provide. In fact, ELMO started, as you know, as an LMS solution, a standalone LMS solution, but you know, after a number of years of developing that particular service or product, we realized that it can't just work by itself. So LMS is extremely powerful when it works alongside other HR processes such as onboarding, performance management, succession management, and as it happens, you know, ELMO built different modules to our platform to allow complementary solutions that manage other parts of the workforce development lifecycle. And together, it's a very powerful tool. And we think that if it all clicks together really well, then you'll find that it's you know, it has more business impact than just e-learning by itself.
Okay, maybe you can give us some examples of that.
Well, the way that we kind of work here at ELMO is that once we've actually have a new employee starting, they go through a systematized, if I could put it that way, onboarding process where they're exposed to a number of training and training events, and then when they finish that, we can then assess their overall skill set and competencies and divert them, if you like, to an e-learning module that would increase a particular area of their skill set to a standard that we would expect from the particular role. So, and it's a straight-through process that is fully managed by the technology. And then, you know, at the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day mark, they're then assessed around, you know, those competencies via our module, and then once that's done, we divert them to further training opportunities. So the key to this, and it's not complicated, is to make it a system and a process that that works exactly the same for everybody. And that's, I guess, an example of what we're trying to do here at ELMO.
Okay, well, we're all about systems and processes at STAR, and we follow them fairly religiously, from onboarding new customers and new staff. So we're used to that. I'll put Josh on the point a bit here, because he's been involved with lots of new implementations for our customers over the years. can you think of a couple of examples, Josh, of industries whereby they actually have quite a demand for rigid training and certifications and accreditations and things like that that we've seen from our perspective?
Yeah, so I think, well, I definitely feel Michael's probably in a better position to probably focus on the broader industry topics, and where especially ELMO's solution probably is tailored or best suited. However, from my experience in both Greentree and Advanced, our two MYOB enterprise products, I think the LMS doesn't get brought up usually or early enough in the cycle. I see it more coming up once the product's already installed and in place, and as I said about working out what those processes are and then building content around it. I guess that's from the Greentree Advanced implementation perspective. However, I feel as though a number of our clients could definitely hit the ground running with some of the existing content that's out there in the library, so to speak, for ELMO. But if I'm looking at it from we've just implemented or in the process of implementing, Greentree or Advanced, I feel as though going forward, it's that really, I've talked about before, that growth element, but also just onboarding new staff. Retention is key, but obviously staff do change. When a staff member changes, they have to learn all the new systems, but also that culture element as well, which I think comes a bit back to those attributes and I guess potentially even personality traits that can potentially be categorized in these tools. Yeah, I said, but as far as industries, I feel as though it's a very broad approach. I mean, if we kind of said at the start, it is all businesses, and and then Norman kind of put that caveat, including not-for-profits, which I mean I include in the business term, but not-for-profits, there's a lot of compliance, especially in the health and community support programs, which we have a number of clients in that space, that whether or not that be actual certifications that they may need to get, or whether that be techniques that they could use in specific situations, more situational based, I guess, training. There's a lot of opportunity for it, and as I said, to really hone in on Michael's point about it works the best when you include it in the whole solution. As part of that onboarding approach, I feel as though that's where you probably get the biggest, quote unquote, bang for buck. It's the one that's easiest to quantify. That okay, we bring on average X number of staff a year based on retention. How much can we save on the bottom line based on better training methods and so on, without having to employ 2, 3, 4 more trainers. That's the easier part. I think the harder part is then the ongoing training, which Michael probably can speak to a little better than I can, but it's making sure your staff remain up to date with their skills, and they're prodded a bit now and then to say, have you thought about this?
Yeah, no, I think Josh, and sorry I put you on the spot with that, and people can tell that this hasn't been scripted, this fireside chat. One thing that comes to mind for me for ongoing training is COVID, making sure people do that training on an ongoing basis, because let's face it, it's going to be with us for a while. And every new staff member that comes on, making sure that they've got whatever certifications are required, etc. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for the time being, because everyone's probably interested in having a look at what Ganesh has got to show us. So we'll just bring Ganesh up on screen, and allow him to do his demonstration.
Thanks, Norman.
That's okay. I'm just changing over the presenter screen to you now.
Yeah.
And
hopefully
we've got it.
You should be able to see my screen. Just a quick check.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Norman, Josh, and Michael, for the chat about how the way we work and learn is changing with the widening adoption of technology. Before we do a deep dive into ELMO learning, I just thought I'll start off with a quick note about what we do at ELMO, what the ELMO products stand for, and when it comes to security as well, because that is quite important these days. So ELMO offers a comprehensive suite of cloud HR, payroll, and rostering time and attendance software solutions that can be configured however your organization requires. From a security perspective, because that's on the mind of a lot of people these days, ELMO is ISO 27001 certified, and we use Amazon Web Services for data hosting, and our data centers are in Sydney. Now, when it comes to seeing the ELMO as a system within the organization, as it was mentioned previously in the chat, it is important not to create a tech silo within the organizations and connect with the other systems. When it comes to integration, ELMO supports integration with third-party applications in your organization using either API or scheduled CSV data transfer via SFTP, depending on requirements and capabilities of the third-party platform. But keep in mind that integration methodologies are typically subject to scoping, so feel free to check back in with Norman, Josh, or us at ELMO for the best way forward with the systems. Saying that, let's get back to the ELMO platform. The ELMO experience is completely cloud-based and is accessible from any place, anytime. What you're seeing is an example of a login portal that can be made available to everyone within your company, as it's completely configurable. Now, once I log into the portal, I am greeted by a dashboard. Now, the dashboard, in tune with the existing ELMO experience, again, is completely configurable. And from a learning perspective, the dashboard can be configured to put in information regarding the latest courses that you have rolled out. Michael and Josh touched upon a lot of courses when it comes to soft skills, technical skills, and likewise. All that, when you build it out, can be announced to your employees using the dashboard. Likewise, the dashboard can also be used to highlight a list of all the existing courses that have been currently assigned to the employees, along with the start and the end date. And from a manager perspective, the dashboard can also be used to track all the courses that have currently been assigned to the employees, just to track the team progress. Not just that, when it comes to the learning courses that are currently assigned to the employees, we do provide you with a set of templated notifications as well that will be white labeled, and these can be by default are sent across as an email, just for those periodic reminders, letting them know what needs to be done. Now, Michael touched upon this briefly during the fireside chat. Obviously, in these times, a lot of us engage in learning outside the office, especially during commute or in our own homes. The ELMO experience is completely mobile responsive, and it can be accessed from any systems, including your laptops, mobiles, and tablets. Just before we do go into the ELMO learning in a deep dive next, just a quick look at the ELMO profile. What I can do is I can utilize my profile page to not just get information about my employment details, but also to access all the learning courses that are currently assigned to me. And this was again briefly touched upon in the chat, but from a systematic perspective, from Josh touched upon how it's important for employees to always be kept abreast of the latest learning. using the profile, we can automate the assigning of certain courses. For example, let's say an employee joins the engineering department. We can automate the assignment of some required and recommended courses to ensure that they're always knowledgeable about that particular space. So that's with the profile page. What I'll do is we'll move into the ELMO learning. Excuse me. Got a little bit of a sore throat there. All right, so when it comes to ELMO learning, I get my own learning space where I can toggle between courses in progress and completed ones. So over here, I've got courses that are currently assigned to me and the courses that are already completed. Now, keep in mind that the completed courses, once the employees have completed, it's still available for them for their reference. And our studies indicate that courses such as workplace bullying, discrimination are very popular for organizations from a compliance perspective. Josh did touch upon, especially from a not-for-profit industry, about how compliance is important. So when it comes to ELMO learning, we can enable an expiry date for specific courses. So after the expiry date, the system will automatically re-enroll us for the next specified time period and also send out email reminders to keep us in check for that compliance. Apart from courses, we can also have CPD plans. I'm sure a lot of you would be having employees who need to have satisfy specific CPD points each year. So we can have those plans set up, and that can be used to track the points. Coming back to that discussion regarding courses that touch upon knowledge, attitude, and skills that Michael had mentioned in the fireside chat, what we can do is we can have a course catalog provided to your employees. Yes, courses can be assigned to employees when they join the organization, but we've already seen how it is important for employees to upskill themselves. So on that note, a course catalog with all the relevant courses to employees based on their employee profile, department, position, example, courses can be presented to them, which they can then go ahead and enroll in, subject of course to approvals from their managers. Now, when it comes to courses themselves, typically the companies can build their own courses. And when it comes to the course that you see over here, ELMO provides a blended learning format. So you need not limit yourself only to e-learning content, or you need not limit yourself only to classroom sessions. Courses like, for example, the one that you see over here, Leading Virtual Teams, has multiple parts. We can have discussion posts, we can have classroom sessions, we can have e-learning content. As an example, discussion posts where employees can interact with each other, providing feedback and comments regarding that particular course. As Michael touched upon, we can have classroom sessions. A lot of our clients seem to prefer classroom sessions, and these classroom sessions can also be online in keeping up with the times, where you can have a webinar link and employees can then register for the same. Likewise, when it comes to that all-important e-learning content, keep in mind that it's not always text and images. The e-learning content that you can download from ELMO, and I'll touch upon this in greater detail in the next couple of minutes, typically are not just text and images, but there's also a lot of interactive content. And at the end of the day, you can also embed videos from YouTube, Vimeo as well, to keep the content as interactive as possible. The e-learning content from ELMO comes inbuilt with assessments, and these assessments can be used to test your learners' knowledge before you certify that they have gone ahead and completed the course. And when it comes to those choices, by the way, it's not just one response type. You've got multi-correct, multi-choice, and a lot more to test the employee's knowledge. All right, so all this is from a learner, from an employee perspective. As I mentioned previously, the course, the e-learning course that you saw is part of about 450 courses that we have created at ELMO. So as Michael mentioned, ELMO started out as a learning organization. And over the span of 18 years, so we started in 2002, we've created about 450 courses, of which more than 300 are applicable to Australian and New Zealand companies. The one that we saw previously, the leading virtual teams, was also from the ELMO course library. And as you can see, the course library is spread across diverse industries and topics. In fact, courses such as Microsoft, Excel, Outlook, they're pretty popular with some of our clients. Not just that, we have recently added a suite of pure play video courses as well, just for that increased engagement. And we believe it's especially important at this point in time. To get back in touch with us to get a copy of the course library and the video library. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, what about compliance? What happens if a particular change comes into the picture? No problems at all. We've got an in-house legal and design team to ensure that the content that you see is always up to date and compliant with any changes, both state and federal, both in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and a few other countries as well. And to do that, to update you of those changes, what we do is, as a part of the learning management system, we also provide you with a course authoring tool. Now, the course authoring tool serves a couple of very important benefits to you. Number one, when you log into the course authoring tool, either as an administrator or as a learning and development manager, as I mentioned previously, all those changes are broadcasted to you. So in the news section, you will get to see if there's been a change to a specific act. For example, over here, there's a Privacy Act update, in which case our content team has gone ahead and made those changes. So for you to be compliant, you would have to go ahead and download the latest version. But that's not the only benefit of the course authoring tool. Yes, we can, as a client, our clients go ahead and download the content from the ELMO course library and build on top of that in order to avoid building, starting from scratch each time. But in saying that, it's not always soft skills courses. You might be having your own technical courses as well. For example, a lot of you might want to have instruction manuals for Greentree or MYOB Advanced. What you can do is you can go ahead and build your own e-learning content as a part of the ELMO learning management system, and you can have that floated to your employees depending on their profiles. But when it comes to the content that you do download from ELMO, what we do is we provide you with the ability to go ahead and make those changes. You can get those courses as is to your employees, or you can go ahead and make those changes. And to make changes to the content, we do provide you with a rich text editor. And using that, you would be able to change, make textual changes, make image-oriented changes. And once you're done, obviously, once you've made those changes, you would want a second pair of eyes to go ahead and review the content before you float that to your employees. So to do that, you need not, keep in mind that the reviewer need not be within the organization. They can be your mentor in your trusted network outside. Absolutely possible to do that. And likewise, when it comes to the assessments, you can build your own assessments when it comes to the course that you create. But when it comes to content that you download from ELMO, we provide you with the full ability to go ahead and make those changes in terms of the questions to be asked, the pass mark, how many times they've got to take up the test before they've got to redo the entire module, and also check the assessment questions that have been included as a part of the question bank, where you can go ahead and create your own questions, or you can go ahead and change the response types as well. So that's from an admin perspective. So what we have seen right now is from an employee and from an admin perspective in terms of how you can go ahead and build out those courses, whether be it soft skills or technical courses, and how you can float that out to your employees. But keep in mind that as touched upon by Michael, ELMO learning is not just standalone. What it does is it also interacts effectively with the other modules within the system. And one other module is the ELMO onboarding. It is important for when employees, even before they join the business, you might want employees to be abreast of what's the culture of the existing culture within your organization. And in that scope, you would want them to take some courses. Maybe it might be a code of conduct, it might be a policy or procedure, or it might be a technical course that you would like them to read up on, brush up on before they join the organization. And that is what can be achieved using ELMO onboarding. ELMO onboarding, what it does is it enables you to provide a great first experience for new employees and reduce their induction time. So as a part of the onboarding journey, we can have learning courses assigned along with, again, with a due date and a status. And these can include any number of courses that can be assigned to employees. To give you an example, when I joined ELMO last year, ELMO Learning, as a part of the onboarding, ensured that I completed my compliance courses even before I started on day one. And I was all set to go when I joined ELMO. So that's how ELMO Learning can integrate with the ELMO onboarding to keep your employees ready right from day one. But again, it can also be part of your ELMO performance. So let's have a quick look at ELMO performance. So ELMO performance is a separate module, and what it does is it helps create, it can help you create those multiple templates to ensure that your employees are tracking where they're supposed to be. But at the end of the day, it's not just that. As a part of the performance template, apart from tracking where they are, you would want to identify if they do require development as a part of their performance progress. And if they do require development, how can we go ahead and help them? So as a part of the performance template, we can identify what goals and what behaviors, what competencies require development by the employee. And as a part of that, we can underline, we can detail what needs to happen. So that can either be a workshop that the employees need to attend, or it can be a learning course that you have created using ELMO LMS. So that's how ELMO Learning can integrate with the ELMO performance. And as Michael touched upon, we do have a different module called ELMO Succession. And what that does is that, again, it helps you track your high potential, fully ready employees within the organization, see where they are, and outline plans for them. For example, over here, as a part of Succession, I'm not going through the entire module, but as a part of a rating, I can immediately identify which employees in my organization are highly critical and high flight risk. And as to ensure that, look, they've got great career opportunities within the organization, within the company, I can then filter them, and then I can go have a chat with them and assign them specific learning. Maybe Beth is absolutely brilliant and she's on the way to becoming a manager soon. So I can have that chat with her, and then I can then go ahead and assign a leadership course to ensure that she knows that she's highly valued and a part of the organization. So those are the different modules that ELMO Learning can also interact with. Now, when it comes to, at the end of the day, obviously, when you set up courses, you would want to track how they are and where they are doing. And to do that, we provide you ELMO reports, both off the shelf and the ability for you to build your own custom reporting when it comes to learning as well. So and reports, by the way, can be configured and they can be scheduled on a daily, weekly, or a monthly basis. So you don't have to reach each and every time you want the report. And here are some example reports that I wanted to showcase. So one, of course, is the course status report. Norman did touch upon the COVID courses. Yes, we did roll out a COVID course because a lot of our clients came back to us and they wanted that. So over here in this particular course, I can immediately see who's in progress, who's not yet started the course. And then I can go ahead and maybe initiate conversations with both Isaac and Linda, asking them why they've not yet started the course. Likewise, I can also have a training matrix, and this is important from a new employee perspective. So as Josh mentioned, when new employees join, you might want to assign them a set of courses, and you might want to immediately track how they are faring across those the courses that they have been enrolled in, and I can immediately see that both Amelia and Charlie, they have not yet started a specific course. So I can go ahead and schedule those one-on-ones with them and indicate and check why they have not done that. And again, when it comes to these reports, all our reports are exportable to a CSV. All our reports are exportable to a CSV format, and about 99% of our reports are exportable to a PDF format as well. Now, if you tell me, Ganesh, all these reports are great, but what about building my own reports? Absolutely. We have a custom report builder for the learning and for learning, performance, and a few other modules. And using the report builder, you can then go ahead and build your own reports. You can schedule them out as well at a desired frequency. And as envisioned over here, the custom reports can also have a chart functionality, a graphic functionality. So that's what I wanted to showcase today, a high-level overview with the learning and how the learning can also interact with other modules within the ELMO ecosystem. I will pass this on back to Norman, Michael, and Josh.
Thank you for that. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I actually prepared for today's webinar, and I even learned a few more extra things that I hadn't seen before. So it's far more comprehensive than I actually even thought. And bear in mind, I'm on the marketing side, so I don't see this stuff day to day. Josh and our other team members have seen it far more than I have. So we're now on to question and answer time, and we've actually got quite a lot of questions. So I'll try and get through them all as quickly as I can. First question that came through, and I think some of these have been partially addressed by Ganesh. So if I run over stuff that Ganesh has already mentioned, it just means that it needs a bit of reinforcement. So how do you manage the governance and compliance in ELMO's LMS?
Yeah, so I'll take that. So when it comes to the compliance perspective, I think we can look at this from two angles. Number one is keeping the employees compliant with those courses such as workplace bullying or even their first aid certification, for example. So ELMO has this expiry date functionality, and the benefit of that is once the employees put in the expiry date for a first aid certificate or a particular any other qualification, that the system can be configured to send out reminders, say a couple of weeks before that particular certificate or a certification or that accreditation is due to expire. And typically, a lot of our clients use a two-level approach. The first one can be just a reminder to the employees, and the second level can be escalations to managers as well to keep them in the loop. So that's from an employee perspective. And the other one that I see from a compliance perspective is adhering to those updates, whether be it state or federal. And as I mentioned during the demonstration, we have an in-house legal team that always ensures that all those updates are tracked and then are broadcasted to the content team to make the changes to the course and to the clients as well as a part of our course authoring tool.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm going through these as they came through. Next one I think is more directed towards Josh. With a Greentree payroll, what kind of integration is involved? Now I'll just point out here that yes, we do mainly deal with the MYOB enterprise products, Greentree, Advanced, etc. But the ELMO system can actually apply to virtually any other ERP type software system out there, or standalone. Correct me if I'm wrong with that last statement. Whilst the question is Greentree related, it does have a broader perspective. So Josh?
Sure. So Ganesh touched on this a bit as in his section, but specifically towards Greentree. The short answer is we can integrate via either the API or the Greentree's data import manager tool, which is what would be using the CSV approach, which Ganesh touched on. The slightly longer answer is it really depends on how much of the ELMO suite you're taking up. to determine just what kind of integration we're talking about. If we're just talking LMS, okay, then as you create an employee in Greentree, we'd want to have it created a record in ELMO. If you're going a bit further than that and you're using ELMO's recruitment and their onboarding, then it might be the other way around. So as Ganesh touched on, when you start talking about integration, while yes, it's been done before, there's not just a one-size-fits-all approach, and sometimes you have to say who is the source of truth or the master record, so to speak. And as I said, I think that depends on just how much of the ELMO solution you're going with. And just to touch on that, there's no reason that just because you set it up one way doesn't mean down the track it might not change. You know, if you did say, all right, we just want LMS right now because of COVID, for example, then we might go with, okay, we push the data to Greentree as a one-way approach, but then as you go, oh, okay, I'm really liking this, it'd be good to use some of these other features, then we can reevaluate that conversation.
Okay.
I agree.
I think this next question relates more to Michael. Where do you host the data? Does it go overseas at all?
No, so the data is hosted in an Amazon Web Services data center in Sydney, and it doesn't go overseas, and we don't sell it to third parties. And we, as Ganesh said, we have probably, I think, one of the toughest compliance regimes in terms of information and data security. I know we have a separate team that works around the clock on this, and I've met them all, and I can tell you they're probably some of the smartest people I've ever met around data security. So we're pretty proud of what we've achieved in that particular area.
Okay, good. This one's also for you, Michael. And Ganesh showed us list upon list upon list of courses, but which sort of blew me away a little bit. You mentioned the course library. How many courses are there? Are they all just text, or are they videos? And just before you answer that, Michael, I'll point out that we did actually upload 4 different brochures onto the webinar, and hopefully you guys who are attending can download them. There's actually a course library list, some HR stuff, brochure on learning, and the video library. If you can't download those brochures, then flick me an email and I'll arrange for copies to be sent to you. But over to you, Michael.
I'm really pleased to say that we understand that different people absorb information in different ways. Some like to hear it, some like to see it, some like to read it. So our system is specifically designed for flexibility and configurability in that regard. You can buy the courses, you can buy the course library, you can buy the video library, but specifically the course library, you can either use our own content, you can write your own, you can upload your videos, upload logos, you can even have a button that will go to outside to a third-party content in some way. So it's totally flexible. And in fact, you know, we've worked with some manufacturing companies, for example, who have said that most of their employees, English is not their first language, so they would prefer to deliver information via video, and we were able to help them with that. So it's very flexible in that regard.
Excellent. We've got one for you now, Josh. We work in a service-based industry and have a number of subcontractors. How do you generally involve external parties in the e-learning discussion?
I might actually handle this question. I think this is probably a Michael or Ganesh question around that. Okay. I guess, but to contextualize that and make sure I'm understanding the question right, I think you know, whether that be you know, we've got some clients that have electricians, people that go out and work on air conditioners. So that kind of, I'm assuming that's the kind of service-based industry we're referring to here. and a lot of that is subcontractor based. So the start, well, they wouldn't be traditional staff, but they would probably have still some form of compliance and e-learning requirements. So, I mean, from your experience, Michael and Ganesh, how have you found dealing with non-traditional employees and more of a subcontractor workforce?
That's an interesting question. You know, essentially our platform is license based. So our customers get a license for anyone that they want to give access to the platform. Okay. And that actually includes a number of organizations who are what we would call have a flexible workforce. You know, and that includes contractors, it includes temps, it includes, you know, casuals. So
volunteers and not-for-profits?
And absolutely not-for-profits. So, you know, we've dealt with many not-for-profits who have, you know, a number of annual, you know, fundraising events or fundraising programs where they bring in volunteers that they want to be able to have a consistency of information before they go out or before they execute on that strategy. So whilst that license is available to a person, it can in fact be transferred to another person should the previous one, you know, not return for that particular program, and that's an example of a not-for-profit. So that's a good question. I hope I've answered it. But you know, once again, there is flexibility around that as long as you consider that your license will get you access to the platform, and you can put any name in there that you want to get access or give access to.
Okay. Well, if the person hasn't had that satisfactorily answered, send me an email and I'll pass it on to Michael or someone else and get a more comprehensive answer. Next one is something we come up a lot against on the ERP side. We have a number of old school staff that are a little scared of technology. How do you find the take up with less tech savvy users? Anyone can answer this. It wasn't directed at anyone in particular.
Would videos help a lot with that? Because I mean, I would imagine that, you know, it's even less tech savvy users out there. You know, once you press play on a video, you know, you should be able to follow that through.
I've got to say this question does come up quite a bit in some industries. Okay, and once again, it's about, you know, maybe the blue collar, construction, manufacturing. It comes up quite a lot. What I would say is, whilst not everybody's comfortable sitting in front of a laptop like we are right now, or in front of a computer, I hope everybody has a mobile phone. And you know, this platform works. It works very, very well on a mobile phone as well, especially around the e-learning and LMS, because you can watch those videos on the phone. You can read it while, as Ganesh said, traveling to work, to and from work. So whilst, you know, whilst we obviously pack it with a lot of features, we'd like to think that it's just as accessible on a mobile phone, which everybody's comfortable with. And once, you know, and we're very, very close to having an app available. So, you know, hopefully that's going to also have the uptake. Yeah.
And just to take the point further, we've got a lot of our clients who are, you know, not very tech savvy in this. They've got their workforce. So typically, those classroom sessions can be set up. So for all those types of learners, where you can put them into a room, maybe broadcast a video. So that session can be anything that you can decide, but just have them in a room so that you can have their undivided attention, maybe broadcast a video or maybe take a course. And then the administrators will be able to mark off the attendance as well for the session. So net, the actual non very tech savvy people don't have to do anything apart from attending the class. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, thanks for that. This is probably more for you, Ganesh. Can customers change the look and feel for their own branding purposes?
Absolutely. the system, the ELMO experience, when it comes to the color schema, when it comes to the information that's to be laid out, is very configurable. So they don't have to come back to us each and every time they want any help. As an administrator, they've got full privileges to configure the system.
Okay, good. And this applies to a number of our customers. They've got subsidiaries overseas. Can their employees overseas access the system?
Yes, it is browser-based. So as long as they've got the user credentials, the URL, and they're a part of the system, they can access. We've got clients in Germany, we've got clients in Fiji. Yes, quite a number of folks out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I suppose that's one of the advantages of it being cloud.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, I think we've already addressed this before, but can users build their own content, or do you have to buy this as well?
Do you want to take it, Michael, or should I take it?
Well, when you say users, we're talking about perhaps the administrator. So whoever you decide to be the manager or the administrator can absolutely build their own content. You know, we not just have a content library that you can tweak, as Ganesh said, with your own colors, your own logos, but you can actually include the content in there. We also have a separate module called Course Builder, which will give you, if you like, a wireframe for a course that you can then, you know, put all of your content in there, including videos and links to outside platforms as well. So absolutely, we have that. The beauty of this system that I think our competitors don't even come near, and that is it is so incredibly customizable. The reason for that, it was built for larger organizations who demand that customizability for their own needs. And we kind of took that and we made it available to all workplaces.
Okay, good. Can employees self-assign courses, or do their manager have to do it for them, or supervisor?
Yeah, so it works in a number of ways. Employees can self-assign courses. That's using the course catalog functionality. So that's very much eminently possible. In saying that, you can have administrators bulk assign employees into courses, and you can have managers assign them as well. So number of ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's so incredibly important that learning is available on demand, and on demand has to be the employee saying, I need to get better at this, or I want a career progression and I want to do this, and to be able to find the courses and self-assign it. So absolutely.
I think that's probably a point really worth focusing in on a little bit. I know we're probably running low on time, but the idea that not only is there, yes, compliance and making sure people have the necessary skills for their role, but it really does show you who's out there trying to go above and beyond, trying to better themselves. So, you know, if someone is, they're working hard because you see their timesheets or whatever it might be, but you're also seeing that, oh, they applied to this course and they wanted to learn about, you know, another part of the business or whatever it might be. It can really show you who are the go-getters at your organization, and you can, you know, whether that's actually reward that in a sense of, you know, promotion or change of role, or that's just acknowledgement that you see the efforts they're putting in. There's a lot to be said about acknowledging or showing your appreciation towards someone's efforts, you know, making them feel a bit warm and fuzzy.
That's a really great point, Josh. In fact, we actually have a module for that, for rewarding people for their efforts, believe me.
That's synchronicity. Okay, I know we're running out of time, but we've got 2 more questions. So I hope everyone can indulge us a little bit as we go through the last 2 questions on my list that have popped up. How does the CSV integration work? Ganesh?
Yeah, how this CSV integration. So typically the way it works is that obviously we'll automate the so we'll have to scope it out whether it's outbound or inbound or both ways, depending on, as Josh mentioned, what's the source of truth. And then once that's scoped out, then we would be able to it works in the sense that we will then be able to automate the movement of files from ELMO as a CSV file into an SFTP server. Now, the SFTP server can either be provided by us or it can be provided by the client. Up to that's up to discussions. But from the SFTP, then we will get the client to automate a script, for example, to take the files from the SFTP server back into the system, kind of like a PO box. So we'll put it to a PO box, and then you will have to automate the movement of files from the PO box into your own systems. So that's how it works. Obviously, the things that need to be scoped out are what's the data that needs to go through, what's the format, whether the end system it accepts CSV files. So all those discussions will be part of the scoping session, and that's why, as Josh mentioned, it's very important to have that scoping session before. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess for a quick roundup of that, if it was a Greentree client, that will be working with most likely the data import manager module to do that importing. And if it's an advanced client, then it's probably using the import scenario feature as part of advanced. But as said, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We can work with you on that, both from an ELMO side, but also from a ERP side.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Thanks, Ganesh. Last question, and a pretty important one here. What security certification does ELMO have to protect employee data?
Oh.
All right, we are ISO 27001 certified, so we'll be happy to provide a copy of the certification to anyone who wants to have a look at it. And for companies who are working with organizations outside Australia, we are also GDPR compliant, and of course, goes without saying that we do comply with the Privacy Act in Australia. So we've got you covered on all those fronts.
Okay, thanks for that. Unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions, but we've gone through quite a few. Actually got more questions than I was anticipating, which was fantastic. At this stage, I'd like to thank Michael and Ganesh from ELMO for joining us as guests for today's webinar. I'd also like to thank Josh for signing in to take things from a staff perspective.
Thanks, Norman, for having us.
A copy of this webinar will be emailed out to all participants and all people who registered but were unable to attend today's event. Hopefully, you'll get it within the next 24 hours. If you don't receive it, then please let me know. We'll also be placing a copy of this on the STAR YouTube page and the STAR website. If you have any questions or any issues that you'd like to bring up, please feel free to send them to me, norman.hall@starbusinesssolutions.com.au, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Whilst STAR primarily deals with MYOB enterprise products such as MYOB Greentree and MYOB Advanced, which are basically tier 2 and tier 3 products for both small, medium, and large organisations. We do have clients who deal outside of those products as well. So if you are interested in the ELMO LMS, please feel free to contact myself. And if I can't address your question, I'll pass it on to Michael, Ganesh, or Josh, and hopefully they will be able to help you. So once again, thank you for your time, your patience with my camera going fuzzy on me today, first time ever, and we'll be doing another webinar in January, so look forward to you joining us then.